Good morning. This morning we're going to talk about narrative writing. Now, a lot of you have had story starters in your packets with things like, one weekend I was camping in the woods and in the middle of the night I heard a noise. And then you need to continue the story. Okay, a story is narrative, right? A narrative is something we read for fun, and when we write to entertain, okay? Now, we've done T-charts to help organize our thoughts, and T-charts work great for explanatory writing, opinion writing, and even persuasive writing, okay? Because it helps you organize your thoughts and make sure that you have all of your reasons and all of your details. But narrative writing, being more about entertaining and having fun, it's got a plot, okay? There's important parts of a narrative writing. There's the exposition. That's the beginning of the story when you talk about the characters, the setting, and the conflict. Then there's the rising action when things get more and more exciting. Then there's the climax, the most exciting part of the story. And after that, there's the falling action and resolution, okay? So we kind of think about a narrative story as having a beginning, a middle, and an end. So if we look at our plot mountain like this, we can see that the exposition, and here they have the conflict kind of after the exposition. I kind of think about the conflict being introduced in the exposition, but here's the exposition's the beginning. Then the middle, which I really think of as being a lot wider than this, is that rising action in the conflict. And then the end, which is really pretty much shortly after that, because after the climax, after the most exciting part of the story, the falling action is just kind of like that, and then we all went home and had hot chocolate part, right? That's when everything's resolved and taken care of, okay? So let's talk about what these words mean. We already talked about the fact that the exposition is the beginning of the story. Characters, that's the who. Who is this story about? Is it just one person? Are there many people? Sometimes the characters in the story are animals, right? Then here's the setting. That's the where and the when, okay? So that is talking about both, were they in a house? Were they in the forest? Were they on a mountain? And the when, was it today? Was it last year? Did it happen 300 years ago? Is it in the future? Okay, that's the setting. And then there's the conflict. The conflict is the problem. Every good story has a problem. Nobody tells a story about the day that they woke up and the sun was shining and they ate breakfast and, everything went well. It's boring, right? But if in the story you wake up and there's a big storm and the electricity's out and you can't find your parents, dun dun dun, that could be an exciting story, okay? So the conflict really is kind of the what. Why are you telling this story? What is going to happen, okay? Then, in the rising action, here I say event 1, event 2, event 3. It doesn't necessarily have to be 3 events there. That's just kind of one way to make sure that you have a lot of different things happening in your story. And a lot of times I like to think of them as 3 ways that you try to solve the problem, okay? And sometimes these ways even make the problem worse, all right, which could make it even more exciting. So, for instance, I'll give an example later, okay? So you have different events, different ways that you try to solve the problem. Sometimes these make the problem even worse. And then the climax. This is the most exciting part of the story. This is where everything comes together. Dun, dun, dun. We don't know if the problem is going to be really completely bad and all the people are going to just fail, or if, dun, 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 the heroes are going to succeed, they're going to solve their problem, okay? That's the climax. Typically, they solve the problem, okay? Not always. But this is kind of where everything comes to a head, and then usually the problem is solved, they come to a resolution, and then there's the falling action. This is usually pretty short, like I said. This is where And so they gathered all their books together and went home. We all had hot chocolate. They lived happily ever after. Okay, that's just our folly action. And then resolution, that's when we talked about how was that problem really solved. That usually happens here in the folly action. A lot of times a story has a theme. Okay, a theme is a kind of a general overriding, like man versus nature, or don't talk to strangers, listen to your mother. Okay, so we could list our theme here also. I'm going to give an example in our next video because this one's getting a little long. Thanks for listening.